When you're on vert, if you ollie before the vert comes, you end up going towards the deck. The vert's going to keep you away, but you pop before, now you have to really kind of ollie, and the wind was blowing that way. So I just kind of popped in, and then the wind blew me in, and then when I'm coming around, I was like gonna hit, so I kind of stretched out as much as I could, but I hit my foot and rolled my left ankle on the coping, and then just grabbed my bone, the backbone, the cock bone, right? And then my arm went numb, and I was just in crazy pain. Got in this cab. Pharmacy was super far, and it was just so painful. I was trying to tell the guy, but he's going through the hooves, and I was just screaming, oh my gosh, this is insane. The next day I'm on the wheelchair, and I call my guy, and I was like, dude, the contest is on Friday. And he's like, dude, if you want to skate on Friday, you got to dip the wheelchair. And then on Friday, I woke up and I was like, I did my sets. And I was like, I think I can, squat up. And I went and skated the event, in so much pain. I made it to the finals, got my run in the finals, won the event, woke up the next day, and I couldn't walk. The other one was breaking my face. Mega, man. Mega could be intense.
What's up, everyone? It's your boy Grizz. I'm here with my boy Sleep. We are here with the Thrash Talk Podcast with another episode. This week we've got a rad guest. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Sleep, tell them who we've got.
A freaking legend in the skate game, a legend in all action sports, man. I'm stoked that we had Bob Burnquist on the show this week with us, man. Bob is a household name, right? The first household name on the Thrash Talk Podcast. So we were stoked to get with him. Bob has 30 X Games medals. Of those, 14 were gold. Just crushing it, man. Not many people with more medals than that dude. He is a business owner, runs his own skate company, Burnquist. He's a philanthropist, has his own nonprofit. We get through all of that during this show. Was a fun one, Grizz, man.
Yeah, I had a blast. We actually went down a road I didn't anticipate going down with Bob, and that was a good portion of the talk, actually, which I think everyone's going to be able to resonate with, enjoy, and pull some stuff from.
Smash that subscribe button. That's what they say. That's what all the kid YouTubers say. Smash that subscribe button in 3, 2, 1. We got Bob Burnquist for you, y'all. Have a good one.
Let's go.
Hey, I sent a board to you yesterday. I mailed you one of these over here, these sassy boards to your
oh, sweet. Yeah.
California resident. So
I'll get it when I get to Cali. I was going in December. I might just go in January now, but thanks for that.
For sure, man. How often do you travel back and forth? Are you is it just kind of you're gone with the wind, whatever you're feeling at that time, or do you have a structured plan to travel?
Well, no, I mean, I got 2 older daughters, but 3, and then 2 dogs. And, so that just kind of doesn't really, there's a base, and then whatever the base is right now, the base is in Rio de Janeiro. And then we just kind of move around, or we go to Sao Paulo. And then I travel out. I was in Florida last for the Tampa thing, the Tampa skate park thing, the Tampa Am, and then came back. And then I'll probably go to Cali next month. So I try to move around. Obviously I stayed at Dreamland a lot more in the past, which I miss, but it's going to turn back on. But I go back and forth. Lots going on.
That's sick. Do you have a preferred airline? Are you strictly one airline, or do you have status with someone that you just refuse to give up? Or are you just I'm just going to grab the best ticket for the best price at the best time?
Well, it's a mix. I mean, I've been traveling for a long time, and for a while, I did Korean Airlines was a big Sao Paulo, LAX. I did that for years, and then they were done with that route, and then I jumped on United and a lot of the local flights and contests, and just kind of stayed on United. So I would just say, hey, I have miles on United, but whatever flight you get. So if they can do it, then they'll do it. And if not, then I'll take whatever. If it's being paid for, I just try to say, if you can get United, cool. But, I should do it more. I should be more it has to be United, but it's not everyone's on that tip. Or sometimes the fare is high, and then throw me on whatever.
Yeah, I'm not even going to lie. I'm full United. So I compete on the U.S. Paris snowboard team. So, U.S. Snowboarding, they're sponsored by United, but Team USA is sponsored by Delta. So for a while, like they were like pretty adamant that we use Delta, and I fly in and out of Aspen all the time, and Delta has got not the greatest flight strategy in and out of here. So I was like, you guys got to kind of just stick with United if that's okay. And I'm a stickler though. I'm like, I would rather keep miles and status with one airline so that it's just kind of seamless for me. So I'm not trying to figure out everyone's baggage policy, and like if I can get an upgrade on a 10-hour
No, it's
flight,
definitely easier if you have it.
Yeah.
It's definitely easier. There's a strategy for you so you don't upset the sponsor or you kind of stoke them out, is take stickers.
Oh,
You run your little stories, just put the sticker on the thing and just run the story. Like, like Delta. Who cares? Just laugh about it.
Right.
It's like you're not, but you're getting mileage on United.
I'm into it.
Man, I love it. Yeah, Korean Airlines is pretty sick as well. I was in the U.S. military for a while and did some time over in Korea. I probably made 9 or 10 flights back and forth for the States, and always looking for Korean Airlines for sure. I did some time in Guam as well. So it would be Korean Airlines through Seoul down to Guam from San Fran or something. It was a great airline for sure. So I love that. I mean, to Brazil, man, that's perfect. From LA, let's do it.
Yeah, it was wild days, because back then, you know, when I was doing it, like it was smoking. Like there was like a smoking section, and then like on Korean Airlines, and like, dude, they were like chain smokers.
No way.
Constantly, the guy behind, like, oh yeah, you're like on the smoking section. I'm like, dude, the whole plane is a smoking section. There's no, you know, and then just one after the other. It was so bad.
You become a smoker
I mean,
afterwards.
it's insane and it's insane that was even allowed. You know, it's such a trip that was the thing. But yeah, dude, the whole airline. But I remember the Koreans love to smoke. And then think about it, they're going to, so it was like Sao Paulo, LA, and then LA, Seoul or something. And it was like just such a long, you know, trek, and they could smoke. Oh my God. It was nuts.
I mean, it still blows my mind.
It's not like that anymore.
I know, right? Like, it still blows my mind when I get on an older plane and there's still like the bolted down ashtrays.
The cigarette thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, you think about it, you're like, holy shit, people were actually smoking on here at one point, recirculating the air, pressurized cabin.
Yeah. I'll give you the ashtray. Don't smoke.
It's a wrapper holder, you know, for your whatever treats you've got.
Totally.
You know?
That was restaurants too, growing up. Restaurants. I remember we had a Perkins by us. It was kind of like a Denny's or something like that. And they had like a half wall running through the restaurant, a half wall that was like the smoking side and the non-smoking side. But it wasn't like they were completely separated. It was a half wall. You know, let's just make the whole place smoking and let's just call it that, because that's what it is.
Well, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what it is, you know.
Just call it what it is.
Do it or don't. Yeah.
Yeah, Wyoming, I think you can still smoke in some restaurants. To be honest, like you know, tobacco industry strong in Wyoming, and when I lived there in like 2006 or something like that, and there was still smoking and non-smoking sections. I don't know how it is now, but I'm pretty sure. I mean, they also have drive-through liquor stores, so
that's what we had in Pennsylvania. We had drive-through liquor stores. Those were the best.
I had family in Wyoming. I'd go to Rawlins, and like. My dad's side and my cousins, and they still live out there, and I would go out there. And I remember like back in like '92, we went up on this little hill. My cousin John, he was like, "Dude, you gotta try, you know, snowboard." I did that, and then we like some kind of hill out there, which was a trip. But yeah, I had a snowboarding experience early. in Wyoming.
I can't remember the name of the hill, but I'm pretty sure I've been to that spot. It
was like one spot.
Yeah, and it's like three runs, like 2 lifts or something like that, and you get pretty wild. They're pretty loose on rules. They're just like, yeah, there's a fence there. We'd prefer if you like stayed on this side of it, but like if you want to jump over it and have at it, like send it, you know.
Hey, there's a marketing campaign, because then you'll go back and you'll travel and you'll be like, dude, go there because you can do whatever you want.
Pretty much, right?
That's a good one. Nice.
I have a question that's kind of along these lines. You know, how times have changed, you know, alcohol, cigarettes, and sponsorships, you know, the Marlboro Man, Camel cigarettes everywhere, you know, skateboarding in the 90s and early 2000s. Was there any tobacco sponsors or anything like that you saw around? Did you have any? And did they fade out? Kind of what was that like?
What they did is they used the image of snowboarding, surfing, and it's cool, and and then you got a cigarette, and it's like the opposite of what it is. It's like straight venom, and it was happening in Formula One and some of the, the other sports. Thank God that in skateboarding is small enough and that wasn't going around, and I'd be hard pressed to get one of those. That'd be a hard one. It's hard enough to even you look at alcohol, and then you look at like energy drinks, just as bad, man. All that stuff is just really, really, hard on your body, and it's the opposite of what you need if you're going top level. Most people that have energy drink sponsors don't drink it. They got the water bottles and they got the, water inside. So it's always the health part is to me is big. I try to stay within, those lines as much as I can. I had alcohol sponsored for a little bit. Then I went to zero. I just zero alcohol, whatever, promote the Heineken Zero,
sure,
or whatever,
yeah.
right? So, or the Corona Zero. They got all these, zero. Cause it's if you're not into drinking and you have a beer, take the peer pressure off for one, when people are like, oh, you're not drinking. And you're just like, yeah, and it's like, if you don't want to drink, I think it's a good, in that sense, it's because the less alcohol you have, the better. Zero would be ultimate, so for the full potential of what you are, so it's like that's when its sponsors come in. I've always tried to think that way, especially when my daughters were young and, and they were looking at what I was promoting. And if I promote something and then she wants to have it, I'm like, no, you can't have that. She's like, well, on the commercial you said it was cool. So it's like I try not to detach what I say as an ad or who I attach myself to, unless it's like a legit connection, because it's easier to represent it, and then it's just like the pillow's softer.
Yeah. And when you're proud to represent it too, that's something that I think about is would I actually utilize this product outside of making money? If the answer is no, then generally I kind of stay away from it altogether. We were at it.
It has to really be worth it,
Yeah.
And it's really hard to,
Yeah, it better be paying big bucks, right?
Man, that's a hard one. There's a number, but at the same time, it's but even when that number comes, there's the second part, which weighs heavier, which is your conscious. And that's the weigh in of surviving, and, moral. I mean, if you can afford it, it'd be best to stay away from it. And if you're surviving and you're coming out of the communities and no one's supporting and you get an energy drink sponsor, I mean, it's dude, power in and go, and make it happen. I usually when I talk about this, it's well, it's easier, Bob, because you can. It's no, I mean, I choose to because I can. And there were times where I should, because, I'd take the hit financially, but I didn't, because it wasn't I'm still surviving. It's not like I'm zero. And then if I have the sponsor, I don't eat. Right. So if it'd be like that, but any extra stuff that you go out and work on, and plus it's your time, it's your energy. It's going to take, whatever, the photos, the interviews and all the events and all the people and all the kids looking up and saying, hey, this is great. And you're like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. You kind of got to be on both sides of the coin at times, right?
Hey, yeah, that's a hard one.
I mean, I tell the younger athletes, because I'm a little bit older in my career, I tell, make the money where you can, when you can. But once you're to a certain point, it's time to actually start looking at the bigger picture. And, I don't drink. I've been off booze for almost 9 years this December. And
that's awesome.
It's one of the best decisions of my entire life. I don't think I would still be competing in snowboarding if I was still drinking, honestly. I mean, one, you make bad decisions nightly, and that can affect the next day, both hangover and who knows, you're like, oh, I'm going to backflip off this deck right now, for no reason other than to be let's do it. Let's send it, and next thing you know, you twist your ankle or break a wrist or something stupid just because you were kind of out of your mind a little bit. So, how long have you been, you don't drink at all, or?
I haven't. I do that. I don't drink anymore, but I don't drink any less. The joke, but no. I don't drink. I haven't like in like 4 months, and I went vegan in like 3 years, and then I just kind of started like kind of testing it out, and then I was like, oh, let me just cut, the alcohol to C, and then because if you're always thinking about like how to make it a better, thing, then, I was looking at alcohol, and then you can look at the other consumption stuff, sugar. I still like, that. So I try to stay away, but like, as long as you're aware of what's going on, and the least amount possible. But alcohol, I went like dry for like 4 months.
Dude, congrats.
So
how do you feel? Just how do you
it
feel?
Feels good. No, it feels great. I mean, as usual, and even like doing the vegan thing, like every now and then you call it dirty vegan, right? Because it's not religious or anything, but like no meat, no milk or cheese or stuff like that, because it's just like I'm asthmatic and I've always been asthmatic since I was young, so all that stuff like super inflammation and mucus creating and all this stuff. So, and then getting hurt, then roll an ankle, you don't swell as much if you're eating cheese and drinking milk and all this stuff, you're icing your ankle. I mean, it's like, take the inflammation out of the food you eat, because a lot of it is there,
right.
And then once you do that, then you work on all the other stuff, and then so there's all these steps. So I try to look at all those, and now, and now I'm at that, and it feels good.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's one of my big things is like, I just feel better. I know like I can go out every morning and do what I want versus like, again, being hungover or like on the mental side, like the shame over when I used to drink, I was a wild boy. So like,
Sure.
The homies being like, bro, we need to talk about last night. And they're like, you did this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And they're like, you did this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And then they show me a video and I'm like, shit, I did do that,
Yeah. That side of alcohol, which, tends to go to the spiritual side, which is another big reason to stop, is in whatever conviction or whatever people believe in, but there's the other side, and there are the people. I mean, there's no death, right? It's just with the transition, and we stick around, right? So it's like until we're born again. That's my view, and then as you're cycling through and you die because drunk, you still want the drink if you're stuck and you're still there. So there's all this like connection and attachment of other spirits that want to drink, and then it creates this whole thing. And what happens is like as alcohol is like, why do you use alcohol to distill, extract stuff out of plants, right? It's an extracting thing. So you extract yourself, like you're extracting your energy, and it just opens up big time to any kind of like attack and thought and process, and you just get stuck in this thing and you let go and you don't remember anything. So the next day it's like, well, something took over, someone influence, and you weren't there, you were extracted from you,
right.
And then now you gave permission for all that. So it's a good call for putting that to an end.
Yeah, I like the way you put that. Like when you're talking about, death, if you die drunk or something like that, do you think that carries over into the next realm or world or life, or, and you're just kind of destined to make the same mistakes until you learn that lesson?
Well, I believe that, there is no change abruptly, just as in you're living your life, and it takes a few years for this, like, change. So you're going to go, like, let's say you go to sleep today and you wake up and you just completely stop wanting what you want. Like you're a creature of habit, and your progress is incremental. And that happens in the same way. So like, let's say now you're detached and you're gone and you're dead. You're still you, because you still have to progress. The lesson continues, and it's still like, it's not like you magically transform into this angelic thing or a demonic thing. It's just like you're you. Now figure it out. What'd you do? What'd you do with this life that was given you? And you and the interactions with people and what that's the measure. And then it's like, okay, well, I'm addicted to cocaine. I'm drunk, or whatever. And now the next day you're just attached to materialism because of what your vices, and your chemical and your connection, in your body and your, and all this stuff. It's like, if you don't have this spiritual education and view during your life, when that transition happens, it's going to be very intense and dense. And then what you're going to look for is like, well, you know, you're not going to let go of here and people and houses and cars and things, you know, and drugs and alcohol. So you look at, you go around wherever that is, and you live that through those connections and you know, but yeah, it's, you know, and it's a gradual learning, you know, curve.
Right,
so
right.
You're gonna have to let go of it.
I want to do a total show with you, Bob, on this theory because you know, and I don't want to do it right now, but I definitely want to know if you grew up religious, Catholic, Christian, you know, what religions you grew up, because I have some strong fears, you know, obviously about the afterlife. I think everybody, I grew up Catholic. You know, my fears are, I guess what anybody's fear is, right? Yeah, I grew up believing all this stuff, but you know, what if it is just like a light switch? And what does that mean to me? You know what I mean? What is that when I'm gone? And was I ever really here? You know, because all that memory, everything's gone. So, obviously that's a small fear, maybe a deep conversation for a later date, but, yeah.
No, man, that's good. I mean, Catholics, I was born around, I mean, Brazil is very Catholic, and because of the African also influence, there's a lot of that, the African religions, and then there's like the Spiritist Christians and evangelicals, but like I'm on, you know, I was on the line of more of the Spiritist Christians, which we believe in reincarnation, right? So, you know, that was the whole message, you know, this reborn, rebirth. It's not like, you know, water and then you're reborn into the site. That's one thing, but it's this constant reliving of experience until you get it, right? It's like same thing if you're trying to trick and you're, you know, oh, my body's a little off. Oh, my grind's a little off. Think of that. Maybe that if that was like the end of your life and you had to start another one, right? So you tried it this way, your body's off. Now you end your life. Now you got to try it that way. Oh, you made it. Okay, progress. Go on to the next. And it's like this growth, right? So it's like constant, you know, so the fear of the unknown. And if we feel it's all over, all that's going to happen is that when you pass on, you're going to end up asleep because you believe so hard that when you die, you're that's it. And then you got to wait, right? And then Jesus will come and you're waiting and then he's going to bring. So you're going to put that because belief mind is so intense. It goes with everything. Whatever you believe in is what's going to, until you can open your eyes, the light comes and you're like, oh, and it's going to be a little bit of a battle, you know, so it's that, you know, you go back and you try it again. That's why it's like everything in life is perfectly in place, because if there's a slave and a slave driver, what do you think is going to happen in that next life? Those roles are going to, switch around. And then now the guy that was, you know, the slave owner is going to become a slave. This is what happens when you act that way, or there's this balance of like, of correction that it just makes, there's no other way that I can see it being just if there is no balance of correction, right? So it takes time.
So you talked about a trick and you referenced it. How did you use that in 2001 X Games vert? You know, just that run. Well, and go ahead, go.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it just in that sense, it's like, what is it? What is real other than what's going on right now? There's conversation, the birds flying around, the butterfly over there. That's like its exact moment real, you know. And then when it comes to skateboarding, it's the same way. Whether you're in your backyard or you're at a big event or whatever is going on, there's that moment of like of expression, you know, and in that way my skateboarding was my expression, my art of like who I am. It's like same, you know, I've always looked at it that way. So it didn't matter if it was like first run, last run, or within a certain amount of minutes or whatever. It was always like, if it's supposed to happen, it's going to happen because I'm going to put every effort into, you know, seeing that happening, right? So, you know, when I'm in these events, there's no like, oh, how many tries I'm going to take to do that. Oh, this trick's hard. Oh man, that's going to be a tough run. Oh, Bucky just landed this crazy run. Oh my God. There was none of that. It was just like, well, okay, there's that, and there's that. And like now, I'm gonna drop in, and I'm gonna do my run, and I know this can happen. If this happens, I'll just let. I mean, there was just like anything can happen because it's happened before. Hey, if it hasn't happened, you got to believe out of faith. But if it has, then you know there's story to it. And then earlier in that 2001 year in Canada, I got a 99 on vert, at the event, and then. Here's Bucky with a 96 or something or whatever. And everyone's like, oh, that's done. And I was like, well, I got a 99 earlier in the year. So I don't know. I mean, shit, it's like, why? If it happened before, it can happen again. And it was like, I'm just going to skate, and then that's in that moment, it was like, where's my board? Almost hung up on this, or I kind of half flipped one trick and I grabbed it kind of weird. I was like, oh, adjust that. And then I landed weird. And then I adjusted because I had a certain line. But that too was something that I was adamant about improvising. I knew certain things, but I never forced something that wasn't there. So if I landed with my feet off and I had, a kickflip on the other wall, I would not do the kickflip. I'd be like, oh, it's off. I just flow into something else and then start and, reset. Okay, now I'm back again into this combo. And then, so it was like that. And I felt like I've always skated better that way. And having combinations and things, but also being open. If your line's a kickflip, a heel flip, a backside lip slide, if you land the kickflip in kickflip mode, why are you going to try a heel flip?
Right.
It's hard to make that quick adjustment of like, oh, and then what happens is like you're going to bail. And you're going to let go of that when you force. And in life is that. And then that line was like, okay, so this happened, this is where I'm going, that happened, this is where I'm going, and then that's kind of like how that ended up, just being that way.
That 2001 run at X Games, how much of that was like straight on exactly how you wanted it to be, and how much of it was like improv?
Oh, none of it was exactly how I wanted it. I mean, I didn't even know what I want. I just was like, runs back then were almost a minute long. And it gave openness to certain easier basic tricks for flow and style instead of like combinations of insane tech, combos, which I always thought when it went that way, I was like, we lost a little bit of this. Like it was, drop in 540, frontside 5, kickflip body vero 5, 900. It was just like, where is the in between?
Where's the soul?
Where are the others? Where is the connection, right? Really is like, where is the connection? So, back then it was like I had connections. I had combinations of connections for days of like, okay, I'll do this. If I came out, I'll switch frontside ollie. I'll do a switch backside ollie. Oh, I'm on the extension. I'll do a switch rock and roll. And then, I got the switch frontside nose grind. Oh, maybe I'll go revert because I want to go forward on the other side. So I would just like choose what was kind of going on, but I wanted the switch kickflip indie, and that kind of was a little off, oh my gosh, and then like the other side was going to be like a gay twist or something. I don't know. I just flailed and then got back into my connections again because the format allowed, because if it was, combo format, like now high tech, just pulling only the best, I would have ended up, my run would have ended and I wouldn't be able to, get all the other stuff around. So, yeah.
Do you think that's taken away from like how cool skateboarding is? Is skateboarding still cool in your eyes, or is it just like this very almost corporate feel in the sense of even the runs are corporate? Like you just said, like it's got to be dialed. It's got to be these technical tricks on point every bit. It's got to be fully choreographed. Like, is it still cool? Like in your eyes? Like, I'm just curious. Like, you're an old soul. You got that old blood. Like, I just want to hear that from you specifically.
I think that the beauty is where you take it, and whether people's realities at this time, are where mine were. When like, okay, X Games was around, I was skating all those and the view of that event and like, oh, it's so corporate. But you gotta look at, it's really a window. And what the window does is whatever you want to show it, if you don't go because it's this corporate thing, or if you're like, oh, I'm not going because you missed the opportunity of showing your view of skateboarding, right? So we were talking about an X Games run, and it was just one of the coolest moments of my life in a run, because it pushed me to do that, but also the whole connection and everything that went down. It was just like boom. The sponsor, whoever sponsored it, whatever reasons they did it. All I know is that I was able to go out there and do that, and it's reverberating. We're in 2023, talking about it, and it connects to people, and it connects. So it all where it is doesn't matter. So that can happen at an Olympic forum, at like a street league, or like a Vance Park series. You can have those like moments. For the most part, it's formulated and tailored into this product package, and people can make a living off of it, right? So if I'm a professional skateboarder and I look at those opportunities, and there's X amount of money being given, and I have to survive, and this is what I want to do for a living, because that's so I'm going to go and attack it as strategic. And I mean, I go to win. Even though I have this like, if it doesn't happen, cool, but I'm going there for the full on. It's like 100%, or that first or last. There's always in my mind of like, and if I took last, it was like, well, I'll go home and learn a trick. So I think that the same way I look at these events, and the park events are different from our vert. Vert had more, amplitude, height, combos, technical, like less cruising around. I mean, it's insane. The level of park skating right now, I look at transition, it's just incredible. I mean, the small transition isn't my thing, but like it's so tough and it's so hard. You can see what they're doing, but obviously I have a taste for vert, mega, I look at those events and I'm like, just, go get them, but allow the format, do some other type of style events. Like, when I do events now, I do them like live music in the finals, and lots of art and lots of culture and lots of like social interaction, kids, schools, whatever it is that we're trying to pass on, like a lot of Web3 stuff, education. So just because I feel like that we need those events, because all the other ones, they're happening, they're going to happen. That's cool, blah, blah. You do that, suit and tie, go make your money. And when you go home, put out your soul and, go out and skate. The main thing is don't live only for that, because eventually you'll learn that that's empty. But if you, live for the progression of it, it doesn't matter where you go to the Olympics, take the gold medal, and then go to your backyard and then put out a video project and do some crazy obstacles and then learn, new things, explore. I mean, that's where it's at. And I think it's many different ways. Skateboarding is this big, octopus with like all these, arms, and it's everywhere, and it's cool. Every little section, you don't have to be in the Olympics you can live your day-to-day that doesn't even touch, but that's you, and skateboarding is culture.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like, it started as an expression, right? It's always been an expression. It's gravitated and transformed into this whole other thing that I'm curious, like if you ever even could have seen it go this way. But what it sounds like your kind of message is like, keep that expression, keep it grassroots at some level, do your thing, but do something with that.
Yeah, I mean, do whatever you want to do. The consequences come later, from our earlier talk. So you can just, do whatever you want. But if you're, I like to see what Pedro Barros is doing. Just the way he goes out there and kills it and skates the events, but does all that, and then there's this whole scene from where he's at, and Push and his company and what he's doing, just his whole expression. He's just like, you can see that he's, putting his soul, on his feet and on his board and on everything he does and the way he skates. And it's cool. Everyone has a different approach. You can be meticulous and still have soul, because that's just the way you are, and how you connect. But if you're going to these events and you're doing all that and you're living all that, just the main thing is to look back at where you are, whatever your roots are, whatever that is, and try to instill the reason of all of it, instead of just like, you're going to be a winner and you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to do all this. That's cool, but what else are you going to learn? Skateboarding is not the only thing. And I wouldn't wait till you realize that you can't live the skateboarding life. I would, like, as you're young and growing, just like look at all fronts. Education. I mean, it's so easy to get educated now and all that. I mean, whether it's arts, whether it's like anything really, like and this whole Web3 side is incredible. Technology and languages, and learn to speak another language, learn programming because that's another language, math, learn Portuguese, English, connect with people because it's what it's about. Just learn, and wherever you go, get sponsored, go to your company, talk to the marketing people, the sales, that learn. Like, if you have access to the CEO, even better. Like, hang out, go check it out, talk. The opportunity is insane because that's real experience. That's and dive in. If you actually get someone behind you, don't miss flights. Don't be late for things. Don't take it for granted because it's gone. It's quick and gone, and then you're like, oh man. So it's professionalism that doesn't take age. It shouldn't take age. Obviously education from early on, but like it's very important. Sometimes even more important of how good you are as a skateboarder, because you can have another guy that's not as good, but incredibly professional, great personality, just super stoked and loving, and that guy is the one you're gonna, you represent personalities. I think that those are the the advice for the interactions there.
So Bob, you talked a little bit
I love it.
about Pedro Barra and what he's been doing. Who are your kind of your favorite skaters, let's say of back when you skated? Who were your inspirations? Who did you look up to? And then maybe bring it to today. Who are you thinking today? Who do you love to watch every time you turn on the TV or you pull up your YouTube, you pull up somebody's Insta and you're like, man, I'm keeping an eye on that guy.
There's no ex-skater. I still skate, that's for sure. And keeping on that side, like of, back early, Lincoln Ueda, Leo Caquinho, early in my, early days. And then, on obviously Colin McKay, because we were watching videos. We were just a kid, and he's a kid ripping on the PAL videos. And Danny Way, those are like the videos that we had access to in Brazil. And then my locals that were skating with me, like Lincoln Ueda has always been a huge inspiration. And today his kid is just insane. Rafa Ueda. I don't know if you guys seen footage, but go search Rafa, dude. Absolutely incredible. Just his dad's style and push and power and flow. I mean, just super cool. So I've been digging his skating a lot. Some of these other kids, this kid like Luigi Cini here, this transition skater, part vert, skating the small mega there at Guy's house, and then Tom Shar, absolutely incredible, just such great. So I mean, when we look at transition skating, just like east of skating, Mitchy Brusco, just such a talented, Jimmy Wilkins, insane, just so power. And then on this, I like Jagger too, because Jagger skates it all. You can the transition, the tightness of Zion. I dig watching like some of the hungrier type of skaters, and a lot of the street, like Felipe Gustavo, just that meticulous. And so I was mentioning about like just super good tech. Raisa, personality, tech, style, like she's just awesome. Been watching. I went to Tampa Am, which was incredible to watch all the Japanese. I mean, the finals were like 7 Japanese and like all these Brazilians, and and it was just incredible to watch, man. Just so crazy how tech, some of them really good tech, really good style, really good flow. So the Japanese skateboarding is on another. I really dig in, and the girls too that skate. There's one that rides the park too. Just really like, I don't know, man. And the way they were all hanging out, I mean, it reminded me a lot of the culture in Brazil. I really dig Japanese culture, but like just the way they were skating, and they all had this different style, but just destroyed. Some were tech, someone tech hash, someone were just like full style, and it was just. And then each run, they would all come in and hug each other and cheer, and it was like, oh man, yeah, I can definitely relate to that, and that's cool to see. So, just being able to be at Tampa Am and doing that, and then skating with Tony, Bucky, all those guys there at the Legend session. That was such a fun, just miss Frazier, just incredible. And Frazier was another guy, Mike Frazier. Growing up, he was always this, tough inspiration and style. Like the Stereo video came out like right early, like 90s, and his vert part. I mean, at the time, not many people. He was like kind of like giving the vert, like holding that connection for a little era there of just his style, winning all the events, and being incredible with video parts. So Mike Frazier was big too.
The Japanese influence is crazy, and Japanese skate, and how young the skaters are today, and what they're doing is so impressive. Like again, from a technical aspect, it's absolutely insane. And I think you're seeing that on snowboarding as well. Is that correct, Keith? The snowboarding, the Japanese teams coming out, especially on the the slope style events, the pipe events. The way that they can flip and spin, and it's just so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, they're taking it to a whole nother level. It's pretty crazy to see the progression. In snowboarding specifically, just in the last year or two, they're doing stuff that 3 years ago was considered impossible. No one was even putting some of these tricks on their list for the simple fact that it was believed to be impossible. And kind of to Bob's point, I love that it's kind of starting to come back to this, like, you're hanging out with the homies at the park or whatever. Like everybody's pushing each other to give it just a little bit more, amp it up a little bit more. And then when they do stomp it, everybody's pumped. It's not just like, oh shit, now I've got to do this, or dang it, now I'm not going to win, or what. It's like, what? Just the love behind it. I think you're seeing a lot of that come kind of specifically from the Japanese culture. We have it in our sport too. My sport's pretty niche, and it's very small in the sense of like, it's adaptive snowboarders from around the world. So we've already gone through something crazy, most of us, or had some crazy upbringing to bring us to this point. And then you add snowboarding to it, something that we all love. And regardless of who's on the podium that day, like we're always pumped for the other person. It's that brotherhood or sisterhood where we're just rooting for each other. And I love that a lot of these sports are kind of starting to come full circle back to that.
For sure, man. That's why it's like, it's very cultural. Mm-hmm. Like, that's why, if you can instill, like, Brazilians have a personality on a board, right? There's a personality on, the way we interact, the way we do things. And, Japanese, they have their personality, and then the Americans, and, there's this whole, like, it's just really cool to see, and then everyone expresses different. But in general, the whole skateboarding family is, this different type of vibe when it comes even to these big events, where people are just, especially the Olympics, it was like, it was really good to see that it wasn't this like, even though they're trying to put it in a place where you feel there's this protocol you have to follow, and then you can't interact. So some people are this like all tight and kind of cold, but when it came to the event, everyone was skating and still like any other contest, or and then you're supporting each other, and then you're high-fiving and they're talking. It's like people aren't used to that, which is good, because they have to kind of see that, and that's the skateboarding has a personality as a whole,
right. Right. It's not super accustomed to that Olympic side of life. Like you look at most sports, and they are very rigid, and it's very, especially like an individual sport, not a team sport, where it's like you're going against these guys, not like you're out there experiencing this with these guys and gals, and we see it again, kind of going back to the Japanese culture. Like the Japanese team is some of my favorite people to be around on the circuit, because they're just having a good time no matter what. Like they say some funny stuff, they do some funny stuff, they're there to do business as well. But at the end of the day, like it's just fun. And I love that that's being brought into that Olympic culture where it's very rigid a lot of the time and it's very serious. And it's like, dude, we're all experiencing this together right now. We're all kind of on the edge of kind of losing it a little bit. It's nice to have that family around you, you know, and people that you travel the world with day in and day out or week in and week out.
And you can see, I mean, the Olympics is such an old event that it comes from crazy times where even, I mean, to this day, you know, like you're talking about countries at war and then they're playing the field, and you want that to be where the war is, right? In games and this fun, it's like, oh, okay, like, oh yeah, I got you this time. And then next year, that is a healthier type of interaction because humans are competitive. If you just got to take the guns and the ego out, then, you know, and violence goes away. But you can still be competitive in a violent, you know, sport, whether it's, you know, skating or, you know, jiu-jitsu or MMA. People are like, oh, off by MMA. But it's like there are ways in how you put out so that you can understand how the heavy spirit weighs on an old Olympic type event. And that, just as long as it doesn't carry through in this animosity of like, you know, I have to beat you. And as long as it's playful, like if we're going to play ping pong, you know, there's no way I'm going to fucking go crazy. I can't, there's no way I'm going to let you win. It's going to be insane. But it doesn't mean that we're enemies, right? So even though it can become, if alcohol comes in, it definitely come into a fight. But if you're just kind of in this like, you know, fun type of competition, like that's, you know, and if you can show that, I mean, it's almost like you're reminding the Olympic spirit, like, you know, you're reminding them, you know, about what that really means, right? Like how to interact, like how to go, you know, it's like every sport has its, you know, ways, you know, they're just brought up way too confrontational. You know, you have to beat that guy. We're at war. You know, you can't like, oh, Russia and the U.S. or, you know, all that like madness of the past. You know, and now, I mean, even you know, with what's going on right now, and just the madness of, you know, and then you gotta, you know, put teams on, you know, that like, it's like, oh man, but that's where you need the game. You know, that's the most important part is like interact and be playful here, and hopefully you can stop all this madness.
We live in a crazy time. We live in a crazy time. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did have kind of a question based on, you know, skating in the Olympics, and you pretty much like hit it on the head. It seems like in some ways, you know, it's done a lot of good for the sport. You know, and it seems like because it is skating, it's not really necessarily killing the vibe. And to your point, it's bringing like new life to the Olympics a little bit, where kind of it is an old thing where it's like the best of each country has to go and battle it out now. And you know, so I mean, I was going to touch on the Olympics a bit, but I mean, you took it there without even having to, you know. And I love what you said. I love that it is like where everything should be held, where it's, you know, not necessarily fully ego. I mean, there are those countries that it seems like these athletes' lives depend on it kind of deal, which is somewhat unfortunate, but it also evolves sports in a way. Like, I don't think like if you didn't have, you know, snowboarding in the Olympics, for example, would the Japanese be coming out doing, you know, quad flips and stuff and just doing all this stuff that they're doing now that everyone thought was impossible a couple years ago? Good and take, right? Good and evil, or give and take, I should say.
I'm also interested, you know, in how tech is innovating these sports and how we can like assume, I guess, that tech will continue to innovate these further with VR, with AR, and kind of what Bob you would expect to see with that in the future.
Sure. Well, I think that when it comes to like technology is really to connect, you know, things that are happening. Like right now we have like social media, and then or whatever. Back in the day when I was watching the videos, I'd have to wait for the VHS tape to to show up, whatever, every few months, and someone went and traveled to the US and they brought the tape, and you're like, okay, you watch it, you get influenced, and then you go on. It's like a slower process, right? From print to digital photos, and now you got this instant reaction. With social media, you post something now, let's say you're out in Uganda and you got the kids over there and they post something, and then someone sees it and it goes viral, and then you see what's going on in that place of the world. They see what's going on via social media, all the bad content and everything. So it just supports like-minded people, to keep going and inspire by looking at content with technology across the world. Now, you add the Web3 layer of it, even before you go there. But like, let's say you get all these countries, the Olympics, and now it's the Olympic thing. You got all this public excuse to build parks. And you have opportunities to start skateboarding in countries that never before, weren't even open or free to it, like, out in the Arabias and in the EU, like all that, like just out there, just starting. So all the Olympics push now, plant a seed, and Olympics starts the process. The culture maintains and educates the now small tree, that's growing, right? So it's like, okay, you can connect by having public parks and inspiration because they want to build it. So there's an Olympic team. You can give them that excuse. That's fine, but it just starts skateboarding, right? It starts whatever action that's going on. And then when you add the Web3 layer to that, then you're connecting people's stories to actual funding opportunities. Because really, to me, Web3 community, it's really more about public interactions, like people helping the people and not waiting for government to help the people, even though you have to have those programs in places and government programs. There's all the realities of that, but and then also the community that you're in, usually the people around you don't see the pain you are living in, as opposed to someone super far away in another country, in another culture, another language, will see your pain. And if there is an avenue of connection, they will reach out, right? So the Web3, that's the beauty, really, what I see in all that's happening, even all the social content on that, is that you can now start an initiative for the Uganda community, and whoever gets that going over there, and then they have their little story. Then when you post your content, you can add their initiative, and then you can push your sponsors or supporters or people around you to support this content that you just posted, because it also helps this community and the actual DAO you're in or organization you're in with Treasury ad every time that's happening. And then now you can submit proposals to help whatever it is that you have going on. And then now you have this community interaction of, community funds and all kinds of different communities for you to like tap in for whatever reason, and think that to me is really, there's this process of like, get it going and then keep it going. And then, keep it going even more, don't stop. It's like, that's, you have to open up that vein, of flow. And a lot of times it's harder for you to run a donation by regular, so if you're Japanese trying to donate to a US organization, and then from there spread on, it's a quicker route to go direct peer-to-peer. If someone is sentimental about or they feel your, whatever it is that you're paying, so I think that's really where the connection is with that.
Yeah, way less hoops you got to jump through at the end of the day, whether it's taxes or whatever. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you end up having to go through if you're trying to give money directly, direct money, if you will, versus going through a digital currency or something like that. It definitely streamlines a lot of things. We've got Shred It, which we know we did a bit of stuff with you guys, with your nonprofit out in Lugano, and one of the big things that the founders kind of started that whole thing for was to kind of give the power back to the athletes a little bit, give them a chance to place their videos in a place where it's going to get some sort of attention. It may not be as much, or it may be more than, say, something like Instagram. But at the end of the day, they're actually going to be able to generate some funds directly from that. I mean, I don't know if you're monetized on Instagram or YouTube or any of that kind of stuff, but my experience is I've got to get 30, 40,000 views on a reel to make $50 or something, whereas definitely don't need that with Shred It. And it's something that I really love about kind of Sassy and the whole direction they're going with it is like, let's give the power back to the athletes a little bit. Let's give them a chance to get a little more exposure, but then let's create something that's bigger than ourselves in a sense, so that people can actually, afford that new deck, the new bearings, the set of bindings or whatever the case may be. And if we can, let's raise money for a good, cause or nonprofit at the same time.
For sure. The difference of the business model of Instagram, and yeah, I'm monetized on the YouTube, on the Insta and all this, but I just like my content deals usually from years to the stage, like, a TV series on, for this channel or this other series here, or events that are televised. And I've been super busy in selling it that way. And when it came to social media, I just kind of held, because I didn't feel like putting my content out was worth it, giving it to them. So I always held back. At the same time, it was like, you have to kind of work, so I've kind of held back because it didn't feel like it was worth the money and the exposure of it, right? So, but it's good to keep telling the story so you don't also disappear, right? So it's like, all right, the social media thing and the Web3 thing. Well, before you're getting money from a centralized from Instagram or Meta or whatever, they are paying you. Right. So if someone likes your content, whatever, they're paying you by the money they get by selling ads to everyone. And there isn't an opportunity for any which one of those followers that are giving the like to give a donation of their worth or whatever they feel. So you get stuck in only their eyeballs, like as accounting to what it is, where here you can touch people's heart in different ways, and some will resonate more with you. So maybe they'll do the $20 or even $100 or $500 while the other does 3 or 4. So but you gave that opportunity for them to do that, right? So I think that is a better business model. And I think that when we dropped the first video, and also I was just like, okay, if it's going to be, half for Laureus and half for Skateboarding Cares, what type of video do we put out and how do we, so there's this whole strategy, also, so that when we drop one piece of content, it's to fish. The story tells the fish the donation for whatever it is that it's impacting at a certain event. I think that's the best way and model to do it. And to go, okay, we worked on this. I did this little video. It's telling the stories of where the thing's coming from, for the kids, but also some tricks of mine with my Sassy, and then in the end doing all the logo. It's more of a directed content, but then you go and to promote this event. Hey guys, we dropped this. Everyone support. So people at the event, oh, cool. But it's raising money during that time. Push, and it was like, I think it raised like about $6,000, and there's the boards, we saw all that, right? So that's huge for a one-off, quick help from the whole community story. But there was this whole organization and push for that, right? As opposed to day-to-day drops and things. But as long as people realize that is there for when events go down or particular fundraising for a specific, thing, but you always have to like kind of tie in the ask with the public good and the push, like just like you would with like a product drop or, just so you maximize the potential for the donation. But the connection of content, initiative, and cause all those, and then the filmer, the photographer, then you add all that into it, and so you can just really open up and do whatever, sky's the limit.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. You kind of touched on it, which I didn't really even think about. One of the big things, as I said, is we're trying to give kind of the power back to, the athlete or content creator, however you want to word that. But it also gives a lot of the control to the person who wants to see that kind of thing and wants to help support it. I really didn't even think about that. People being able to mint these things and get a little piece of history, whatever that might look like to them. They're actually being a part of the process, as well as they're now in control of how much they give, versus getting that check from Meta or whatever.
Right. No, I mean, I think that if we look at it that way, and I was talking about, obviously I've launched Skateboarding Cares on That's Gnarly, and we're adding communities in there. So obviously we want to get that Shredding Sassy community active, the TSC community active, and NARS, and all these communities of content, because that's really what it is, right? And there's always talk is like, well, people aren't minting that much, or people are, it's like slowed down, obviously Bear and just in general, all those talks. But like, I think that once there has to be a sell of why, and then a proof of concept and the use case, right? And all those are there. So once people realize that it's like there's this triangle of like, content, if you just drop a piece of content, that's cool. I can help you out because, or whatever, put the 2 minting, but there's no like, oh, I'm selling on the secondary, or OpenSea is going to, we're going to do this. And then no, that piece is that for what it is. And then if you attach an initiative to it and keep it open, and then now you can keep reposting that if you want and be like, hey, this thing is still up and people want to donate, then you're pushing a way for people to watch and way to donate like right away. There's a reason to mint it, not just to like, collect a bunch of them because eventually I'm going to sell it for more. That mentality is like, I think it just has to be a tool of capturing and donations, and like just a way of like, so attached to initiatives makes more sense. Every piece of content attached to an initiative makes more sense, even if it's your content, because if you could do that on Instagram, you do it. If you could do that on the other, you're just like, well, you can't do it there. So then you have this tool. You can go to, if you just want skateboarding content, you can do the skateboarding thing. You can do the surf Guru DAO, or you can just do the That's Gnarly in general. You could do Shred It, whatever you want to like attach to, and the different governance, NFTs, which is huge. Once the treasury is high on those, then you're going to get people to understand and how to like prop up and use the funds, and you have to give out money. You have to put, video competitions with outside sponsor money so that you can add to treasury. And, and also, whatever videos that people put up win the money, and, and then you get more content. So it's like, you have to create this like a tool, the tool is there, but you have to create the use so to people to really use it.
Right.
How would you have used this technology, in your 20s? How would your career have changed, or how would you have used this technology in your 20s to advance yourself, advance your platform, maybe, advance your community? Is there something that you're like, hey, if this was available then, this is how I would have managed it. This is how I could have promoted, skateboarding in Sao Paulo or Rio or LA?
Well, I think that it wasn't so much about, because, to look back and see that, but let's say the technology was there for that. Like today, I've had, a long career, and I've started my own, institute, and, I've been working on the social program, doing all those things. So like, that's because my name has gotten to a point where I could do that and be like, hey, if I can raise funds like this and opening up an institute to help people out, then I'm going to do it. But that's me. And not everyone needs to start a foundation, an institute. It takes it's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of paperwork. There's all the stuff, for you to like get this, whole, this machine going, right? There's all this, like, it's just, like a big company and funding a company and do all this, like that's because I've gotten to a point where like, okay, I like diving in and doing, stuff. So, but back then, to start an initiative for anything, like if I'm here in Brazil and I had that, I do what I'm doing now in a sense, but like I wouldn't have as many eyeballs on me, but I would just be like, okay, this community here from my friends that skate at the favelas, need a mini ramp. And how can I fund a prop to build a mini ramp?
Sure.
Which is exactly what I'm doing now.
Well,
I got a prop on NARS to install, on That's Gnarly to install a ramp, at the favela. I'm using because I'm still me, but like, obviously if I had that back then, I would do it that way as well. Right. And then it would be in more, a power, so.
So that was probably a poor question on my part. I guess maybe the question would be, how did you do it back then, or how did people do it back then, or did they just not have the opportunity to raise funding like this?
Well, no. The way you do it, the traditional way, which is I still do it, is you build a presentation or you tell the story, right, of what you're going to do. Like say for me to get sponsored, I filmed a sponsor me videotape on a VHS and, edited on that and sent it and gave it to, Deluxe. And here in Brazil, we did these videos of VHS when people see it and they see you skateboarding personally, right? Like in front of them, owner of the companies, and they go to the contest, or they go to the parks, and that industry small. I was like, oh, that kid's getting good. Oh, and then that's kind of how, it keeps going. It was done then, and you take a little longer, but you'd have to go and set up the video shoots and the photography. Like there's no phone. You have to set up with someone that professionally could do it, either a photographer or, cameras. We do the big VHS cameras over the shoulders, then high eights and all that. But so not everyone had them, but they were there for us to build our video and, and do it that way. But it was harder, right? Like, oh, develop that. How did that go? But that was just what it is. Now it's just quicker, easier in your hands, and now it's a matter of you knowing composition, trying not to, and even if you kind of move it around a little bit, the cameras have the tech to hold the stability,
right?
So really it's a matter of you wanting to do it or not. If you don't, there's no excuse of like, well, I needed to do this. Well, not unless you're like, your thing is like, you don't have a phone, you don't, you can barely eat, or whatever. Those real type of situations, are where you look at, and so to try and help it anyway. But it was tough. But I'm glad to see it the way it is now, and it's cool to see and how quick you can kind of do something and grab time lapse and then put the content out. It's a lot of work, right? But but it's fun to get the message out.
Some of these kids are crushing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, some of these kids are crushing it. Super impressive. You talked about DAOs a little bit earlier, treasuries, Sassy. I would say our first real big sponsorship of a youth team. We just sponsored Minnesota Select Snowboarding Youth Team, where we paid their competition fees for the whole year.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So just really excited to see them grow and post on Shredded. I think they have 6 riders right now, competing at 6 events, regional and national over the season. And really excited to provide that to communities. And one thing that he had talked about, the owner of the brand, we want to make snowboarding, we want to make it like baseball for kids in the United States, or like, soccer, where even if you don't know how to kick a ball, your parents are going to sign you up to go play youth soccer, rec soccer. If you've never swung a bat before, we want to be able to provide kids the ability to go swing a baseball bat, right? But snowboard, we want to provide people the ability to go skateboard in the United States. So it's like football. So it's like soccer. So anybody can do it at any time. We want to see how we can do that at Sassy, and just really excited. This is kind of our first one we're doing with the Minnesota Select. Snowboard
that's
Club.
cool. And is that a prop that passed, or is that just straight decision to sponsor?
Yeah. Nope. Proposal that passed. Funded by our community treasury, not the brand at all, the community.
That's awesome. And I think that one of the things to add more and more, funds to the treasury, so props like that can be put up for whatever, reason, is that is the main thing. Because once you sell NFTs all day long, but how to really, up the treasury. And I think that might look into ads and video contests when you put stuff up. So if a sponsor puts money in for a competition, get some sponsor to put in 10 grand, 20 grand, half of it stays the treasury, and they understand it. They sell that. They're like, hey, this is cool, because then now the community, because you're sponsoring Shredding Sassy as a community. You can't just sponsor the one guy that wins the skating, but you're using the set. So you're going, sponsor the community. And then boom, you put the money in, half of it stays for the community for prop passing. And the other half gets sent to the top videos in whatever this contest is. And for the sponsor to put that kind of money or any other higher amount is really exposure. And, whether it's a watermark of their content for those winning videos, or because there has to be a graphic wrap of this competition, and then a frame so that when you see the content, the logo's there. I know people are like, well, add, but if you really want to add, treasury and grow, that model of putting ads in, and it's just a matter of how to do that, how acceptance could bring, some serious money into the treasury.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're really excited about the future and growing our sports, continue to provide value to our communities for sure. Keith, sorry. I think I cut you off.
No, you're good. I was actually just listening. I love the concept of actually putting money into the community, and that's part of the sell, actually, so that half of it goes into the next project. You're not just sponsoring one event or one athlete or one group of athletes for that matter. It's you're putting money into a fund that's going to be used at a later date, and your brand will be on that as well, but you're creating something bigger than just this one competition or these handful of athletes. I think the industry as a whole, especially Web2 industries, saturated with that concept of top three are going to get all the money and everyone else is picking up the pieces, or scrambling for breadcrumbs kind of deal. So I was actually, kind of brilliant when just listening. I was like, big light bulb went off in my head.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot, because we need to up, on all the different projects, and it's like when you mix up the model that works for, like, say, a TV station, and then also a deal with like TV to run an actual program on specific content, because then the winning content for the month gets shown, and then so you'd have to have that license, whatever, so that people can see, because then now you're getting the eyeballs for the sponsors, because you attach TV to the Web3 tool, to the push, and now it's like, all right, let's all share. So it's like putting that deal together has been, definitely been working on that. And I think that, for Shredding Sassy, makes complete sense. And any other, if you can create, especially the uniqueness of NARS, Shredding Sassy, and now at TSC, is the fact that you have a content social media tool, right? Like, it's really, you have content, and all our sports and activities, from snowboarding to skateboarding to surfing, is content creating heavy, because you're learning tricks and you're putting it out and you're promoting a brand, you're connecting personality, you're expressing your art, you're going to go somewhere, you're going to put that somewhere, so I think it's just in our culture to just try to now direct all that. And then, hey, there's this way, because in this way, you can share and help and boom, and a lot more than in the traditional way.
Absolutely. So I know we're running up on time here. I want to pull it back real quick. I was talking to our skate coach, Dom, the other day, Dominic Tossings, in the Sassy Discord. He was filming something for us, and he was skating with his buddy, and his buddy snapped his tib fib. Pretty significant injury coming off a board slide. And I know that you've dealt with injuries in your career. What do you say, to the young kid, with a pretty, extraordinary injury to kind of help them, push through it and and see the other side?
Well, I'd say if to anyone and everyone at any age, at any situation, but especially if you're young, which gives you a huge advantage. I've done the fracture thing 48 times in my life. I count them, and usually when I get hurt, I pray for the fracture instead of a ligament thing, and like I'm usually like, ooh, I hope that's a break, right? So when it comes to an injury like that, immediate like understanding of you're out is a big step, because what happens is a lot of times when we get hurt like that, you get into this mind desperation because you love doing what you do, and your mind now throws out this fear of not doing that again, which is fake and it's an illusion. So what you got to turn into is this like healing mode, because your body, is a healer, and we are light, we're vibrating, and it's a matter of like how you direct that energy. So immediately your brain has to start working on the healing side of it. Then it's like food, rest, water, and what you listen to and med. Like what I do, if I was him and that was me, I would, immediately understand what part of the fracture, what that was. So like I have an app on my iPad, like anatomy, muscle, and skeleton or whatever. I go to that and I start drawing, and I start looking at that area, and just constantly like being up. And then when I get to close my eyes every now and then, I envision that healing. Right. So I would like start thinking about like, the bone mending. Right. And then if you can up your cardio, your heartbeat, in a sitting down position, or if it's the hands, because what that does is that the message travels quicker when your heart's beating faster, because it's your blood's traveling to, so now that thought and message is like, that's why you want, cardio, because you want that message to be fast. You want that high speed internet, going on inside your body, and then you're visualizing what's going on, and it's just like, there is no like lamentation, no complaining, just straight like healing, like that, because that's going to be the quickest, fastest. I guess is believe the diagnostic, but forget about whatever the guy tells you. Forget about that. Look at what's going on. Okay, I believe that there's a fracture there. I feel that. And also, drugs on the high right now for the acute pain for the first few days, whatever. Like that's cool, because you're gonna want that. But stop immediately, like as soon as you can, as that phase goes away, and accept a little bit of pain in your life, and take the drugs away and work on the healing process. Food, right? Milk, cheese,
dude.
Inflammation.
I'm not even gonna lie. I love what you just said. Like if I may just kind of give a little bit of my experience. I lost my leg due to an industrial accident, right? Super trauma, all of this. The doctors told me like, hey, we could potentially save your foot, but realistically you're looking towards amputation. My question was like, okay, well, how long till I can snowboard again? And they're like, well, gave me these numbers, right? And I was like, okay, well, like, what if we just cut it off? How long till I can snowboard again? And they're like, technology's good, blah, blah, blah. We could see you living a normal life in 3 years with a prosthetic. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, opening days in 3 months. And they're like, dude, whatever's going to make you make the right decision. And like that instantly was my focus, right? Like, okay, we're going to chop this thing off and I'm going to be snowboarding in 3 months. So what you were saying is like, the diagnosis versus prognosis. I was like, that's all my focus was like, I'm just going to snowboard. I'm going to snowboard. I told everybody with a set of ears, I'm going to snowboard. Everybody was like, cool goal, dude, but don't be bummed if it doesn't happen. I was like, I can't hear that. I'm just trying to ride, man. And like that got me off the pills. That got me into a leg and learning how to walk very quickly. And I did, I hit opening day 3 months after my amputation. And like, that was the recovery, was like, aim for something. Don't listen to what everyone else says. Believe it's possible. Put the energy into your own healing process and just go for it, And like, granted, it's hard to pass that message along to people because they're like, well, okay, that was an extreme case or whatever, but it's like, no, it's real. Like, believe in that, put the energy into that healing and know that it's possible. You don't have to listen to what everyone says. I know a handful of people that were told they'd never walk again, and they're out ripping snowboards, you know? So I just love that. I appreciate that you mentioned that.
No, I appreciate that, man. That's incredible, actually, because yeah, I mean, if that is an extreme case, and that's why it should be, you should listen to that, because breaking a tib fib is harsh,
right.
But it's not losing a leg, you know. And if it's losing a leg, then that's harsh, but that's not, you know, being quadriplegic. Or being quadriplegic, that's harsh, but that's not being dead.
Right.
You know. And it's like, you know, with and then even when it is, there's like, all right, well then you run that life, and you know, and that's the experience that you're supposed to live, you know, for whatever reason within your, you know, story. Then, but it's how we take those things, right? And because you easily could have been like depressed, drugs, alcohol, and then you're spiraled, and hope is gone when you let go of the control, right?
100%.
You know, control has to be there at all times, because that's who you are. That's, you know, you are the reality that you want to live in. That's why it's like, you know, your reaction to that was huge, because it quickly turned it into a next goal, instead of it being like open to, I'm fucked now, you know, like,
right.
Because that's a hard one. I mean, do you guys watch John Cardiel's Epically Later? If you haven't watched John Cardiel's, because it goes through, obviously, you know, incredible snowboarder, skateboarder, you know, went through the experience there of breaking his back, and then people tell him he's not skating again, and all that stuff, and then it just goes through that whole, you know, just his personality, you know, comes across such an incredible. John's like an inspiration. That's another one, you know, just, you know, throwing back in there, but like that, those are the kind of stories, and the people that are strongest to tell that, because, you know, there are other people that kill themselves for less.
For sure.
You know, for a no from a girl, you know, and if you're going through that, it's like there's no solution. You know, you can take a bunch of no's, you know, you can bail a bunch of times, but the make is coming, or, you know, the right person is going to be there, or, you know, but it's like, you have to make sure that the reaction is light on yourself and stern with your will, you know.
Oh, for sure.
I guess that's a long-winded advice, but hopefully he takes it in.
I was just gonna say, I love it. It is such a strong and powerful message, and you know, it hits home with very like-minded people, which, you know, we have a handful of them for sure in our community and stuff. So I just appreciate you kind of elaborating on it a bit. You know, someone else could have just been like, you know, it's all good, man, you'll heal, blah blah blah. But like, really appreciate that you actually took time with that and actually explained kind of a little more of the belief process that, like, no, it really will be okay, but you also have to like take the time and energy to believe it's going to be okay, you know? So yeah. Awesome.
Well, you go through it enough times, you know, it's almost like I feel like I'm an expert. I'm 47. I turned 47 and I got the 48th fracture, you know, so it's like, it wasn't like once a year, because there was times that I didn't get hurt, but there were times there were like 4 or 5 at once,
right.
You know, so you know what it takes. And even if I got hurt now, it's like, oh, you're 47. It's like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter, because it's just part of that life. You know, you break the left hand, I'll learn every trick I can with the right hand. You got them both hurt, I'm going to learn to not grab my board, you know, and just skate and just be doing ollies and you know. It's like, how do you, like, you know, what's your reaction? It's like, instead of like, ah, man, you know, and I do get, when I hurt my arm and I can't do inverts, I just love inverts. And it's always like, when I go skate, I'm like, I can't do inverts. And I was like, let me do something else, you know, let me just focus on, because if not, I'm just like, every time I can't. But it's, you know, you do have to adapt, because you're not going to cry your leg back onto you.
Totally.
But you can just laugh your, you know, experience, and then your fight, and then the, you know, the going snowboarding. I mean, that is way more of a rewarding feeling. And it is like learning a new trick, right? Because you said you're going to snowboard by the end of whatever the 3 months, and you did, and there are tricks that take longer than that, but there are tricks that you just have to keep working on it, and eventually, it happens. So it's almost like you learned a new trick, right? Snowboard without a leg.
For sure.
It's like, that's like, that's, now you got all these other tricks that you learned that you didn't do before, right?
They're all one-footed at that point.
They're all NBDs, right. And it's like you opened up a book of NBDs. It's like it's so cool, man. Right on. Well,
was there an injury? Can I just ask real quick? Have you had like one of those injuries in your career that really kind of made you question everything?
Man, some of them. There's this one on the Mega. It was super windy, and it was like a contest, and it was just like I was in this space. It's like wasn't ready to skate, and just personally was going through a couple of relationship things, and I was just like, and I just kept pushing skating because I had to skate whatever. But the wind kind of blew me onto the deck. I did a kickflip Indy. What I wanted to do is a kickflip Indy 3 off the 70-foot jump. For my run, I wanted to do this land off the 70-footer and then do a big kickflip Indy 3. It's always kind of in my head. And when you're on vert, if you ollie before the vert comes, because you can have that anxiety and you can pop out before the vert, you end up going towards the deck, right? Yeah. So because you've missed the whole vert, so the vert's going to keep you away, but you pop before. Now you have to really kind of ollie. So I just anticipated, and the wind was blowing that way. So I just kind of popped in, and then the wind blew me in. And then when I'm coming around, I was like, gonna hit. So I kind of stretched out as much as I could. But I hit my foot and rolled my left ankle on the coping, and then just grabbed my like the bone, the backbone, the cox bone, right? And then my arm, and it just kind of went numb, and I was just like in crazy pain. It was just straight to the coping, right on, like, and just was bad. And then it was like, but here's that story came like a whole nother, which was like, dude, I hit like that, and man, this was like Tuesday, and it was so painful. I was in a wheelchair, and that night I had to get some painkillers, and I was just like, got in this cab. And the pharmacy was super far, and it was just like so painful. I was trying to tell the guy, but he's like, going through the hoops, and I was just like, like screaming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Grabbed the painkillers, had it. The next day I'm on the wheelchair, and I call my guy, and I was like, dude, the contest is on Friday, and he's like, what happened? I was like, dude, this, and this. So he came over. My ankle was super swollen. My back was where I could barely even to get off. It was like wheelchair. And he's like, dude, if you want to skate on Friday, you got to dip the wheelchair. And I'm going to come here every day, and I got a couple of things that I'm going to tell you to do. I'm like, all right. Took the wheelchair, and then I was like forcing the walk around. And he was working on my ankle, like just some excruciating pain to get all the juice away, and then my back. And it was just like every day I was working, doing all the squats and doing all the stuff, just in so much pain. But I was like at the whatever, the 8th or 10th floor of the hotel, and the mega ramp was down, but it was at the LA Staples Center area there, but it was outside so I could see the ramp and I could see the skating, and I was just in so much pain working, and it was like Wednesday, Thursday, and it was every day I did this, it was just everything was insane. And then on Friday, I woke up and I was like, I did my sets, and I was like, I think I can, squat up, and I went and skated the event. Made it to the finals, in so much pain. I can barely, it was so harsh, man, just to squat, just to get on my board. And then made it to the finals, got my run in the finals, won the event. And I was just woke up the next day, and I couldn't walk. Just couldn't move, but it was my brain immediately. It gave me a goal, just went through the most amazing pain, most of the harshest slam, and then to actually, win the gold was just insane to me. To this day, when I tell stories like that, I don't understand how I was to what I went through, to what I did, to then, to look back into this story. But that's how the power of what you have and what you hold on. Because once that was it, I woke up the next day, my body had given everything it could. didn't have any more, but I've used, and it was like, hey, I was thinking I was going to skate the vert contest because I was like, oh, I skated this and I couldn't, didn't work. But that was one. That was one of the and then the other one was breaking my face at the same event. It was like broke the nose 4 places in the eye socket. And that was harsh too. But
dude, wow.
I didn't get knocked out. Yeah. That's Mega, man. Mega can be intense.
That's like the epitome of like that thrasher mindset. Like I just, dude, I hands up to you, flowers, all this stuff, hats off to you. Like freaking thrasher, man. Like thrash the body, thrash the mind, thrash the soul, build it all up just to go out and do it again. Like full on legend.
Hey man, I appreciate that. But you gotta want it, right? Like usually skateboarding, snowboarders, if you like the first time you get hurt, if you stop, there's probably another priority. Maybe you're a drummer, you play guitar, and you don't want to hurt yourself because you get priorities in your life and what you love to put out. If you get hurt and you can't, the first thing you think of is your thought, which is like, when can I snowboard again? When can I skate again? You'll never stop. It don't matter what injury, because now you've already through that hoop of like, okay, this is going to take how long? So you're looking ahead to skate, and not like, I don't want to get hurt again, because that's,
it's going to happen.
Life is dangerous.
Yeah.
You can walk across the street. Dude, I ride my motorcycle in Rio, and I do all these things in my life, and that to me is the most dangerous. The skydiving, flying planes, and all that. I mean, helicopters. That is high risk.
Right.
Like that is dangerous.
100%.
Yeah, don't look at the if it's going to happen, but more or less it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, but
just
when.
be ready for it to happen.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, let's wrap this thing up. Let's bring this plane down. Bob, I know you had an event here in an hour and a half. Man, we really appreciate you coming on and chatting with us today. This was perfect. So much more I want to talk about, but hoping we can do something like this in the future. Maybe get you in some more X spaces, hanging in the Discord. Love it, man. Love it. Just thank you. And Keith, man,
you guys.
thank you as well.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. All right, man.